one key thing here, DTIP. Whenever you're around these people, remember, don't take it personal. All right? Don't take what they do personal. Because if your brain starts to take what they're doing personal, you're going to get reactive. And the higher order brain says, wow, you guys got some real issues. I don't have to be a part of it, and I don't have to own what you're doing. Where you are is who you are. I don't have to realize it. I can realize that I'm not a part of that. And that allows me to never be a negative feedback loop with those folks. Because what I want to do is not be a negative feedback loop, all right? So just remember, when you're around those kinds of people, don't take it personal. It's who they are. It's what they do, and that's what they know to do. And that's okay. I'm not saying it's always, fun to be around them, but I don't have to personalize their stuff and become reactive to them, all right? So, self-regulation is always best when you're around difficult people. Because when you want to choke them, you're moving into lower brain. Now, what do I mean by lower brain? There are 3 stress responses of the lower brain. This is the brain stem. The brain stem runs all your autonomic bodily functions for you. Got it? How many people in here want to think about breathing? Do you want to think about your heart beating? You don't want to think about it. You just want it to happen, right? And the fact that it does happen is because of this part of your brain. It runs all that energy for you. It does all the things for you. But it also does one other thing. It's constantly scanning the environment for danger, for being threatened. And whenever your body, your brain, senses that you're about to be threatened in some way, you go into the fight, flight, or freeze response. Anybody ever heard about the fight, flight, or freeze response? You've experienced it. Whenever you are in the fight, flight, or freeze response, you are not in rational energy. You are in instinctual energy. It is purely biological. Animals have this energy. Got it? And when you give into this energy, it can be very destructive. Now, you want this stuff working. If you drive out on the main road out here on Tamiami Trail and you start to turn and you see an 18-wheeler barreling down on you, do you want to stop and think about that? Gee, I'm about to get creamed by an 18-wheeler. I think I'll turn. By the time you get done thinking about it, you'll be dead. The reality is, the moment that brain senses the danger, 1/2,000th of a second, depending on what it perceives, fight, flight, or freeze, it's going to move you into reactive energy, and guess what you're doing? You're just turning the wheel. It's reactive energy. You want that part working. You do want to regulate it when you hear those dreaded words, we need to talk. And your brain goes, no. All right? So the fight, flight, and freeze response actually have their own forms of communicating. You got it? Now, whenever you go into the fight response, low brain, what's going to happen to you is basically this. Whenever you feel threatened by something and you go into the fight response, what your brain is saying is, I'm feeling threatened by you. So the principle is a good defense is a what? A good offense. And so because you're feeling threatened, you're in the fight response, your brain gives you a chemical called adrenaline. And guess what the adrenaline is going to do if you're sitting down? It's going to stand you up, and usually you see stuff like this. Shut up. Don't tell me what to do. You don't know what you're talking about. No, I'm the boss. Get out of my office. Well, how are you acting mature? You see, low brain energy is always immature. Because it's just reactive energy. And when you're in the fight response, you become a blamer. Never take responsibility, always somebody else's fault. Because you don't have the adult capacity to control yourself, self-awareness, you're not sure what you're doing, and figure out, why am I acting this way? Or why am I feeling this way towards you? When you can figure that part out, you can self-regulate. But in this energy, there is no self-regulation. This is purely destructive energy. And this is usually the posture you'll see. Something like this, moving forward, pointing, yelling, name-calling, you criticize, you threaten. Because that's what the blaming energy does. It will never connect you. It never keeps a healthy work team, that's for sure, or marriage, or relationship with anybody. Now, if you go into the freeze response, your brain has this uncanny way of going, you know what, I'm not sure what to do with this energy. What's going on right now, and I can't deal with you, and I can't deal with me. Because I am not going to be vulnerable. Because if I'm vulnerable, then I'm what? I can be threatened and harmed, but I'm not going to be threatened and harmed, so I'm not going to be vulnerable. And by not being vulnerable, the brain has an uncanny way of disconnecting from the limbic brain, which we're going to look at here in just a minute, which is the emotional part. And when you do separate yourself from the emotional part, your body's going to stiffen. So in the freeze response, your body stiffens, and you see something like this. Well, It seems to me there, Bob, that, if you're the one with the anger problem right now, and I don't have an anger problem, you're the one yelling and screaming. I don't know what you're yelling and screaming for. You're the one out of control. By the way, the policy and procedure said you're supposed to do it this way, because when you're in the freeze response, I'm not dealing with you, I'm not dealing with me, so we're just going to stick to the facts. And when you're in the freeze response, you just become like a super reasonable computer. All right? A super reasonable computer. What do? You quote law, you quote religion, you quote policy procedures, you quote all kinds of stuff. You look like you're in control, but actually you're not. You're in low brain energy as well. In this energy, though, I can't deal with you, I can't deal with me. So we're just going to stick to the facts. It'll never connect you. And then there are two ways of communicating with the flight response. The flight response basically says, I don't want to deal with this, and so I'm not, because it wants to run away. So it runs away by doing two things. Number one, by appeasing and placating. And it sounds something like this. Okay, fine, whatever. Do it your way. Whatever you want, whatever you want to do it your way. No, I know, I'm worthless, I'm no good. Tell me what you want me to do, and I'll just do it. Now, appeasers, long term, become clinically depressed. Anybody can guess why? Because they're actually angry, but they haven't learned how to speak up for themselves in a healthy way. So they basically run away from the issue by not dealing with it. All right? These people become depressed because really they're angry. And the other form of the flight response is a distractor. And this one basically says, look, I don't want to deal with you, I don't want to deal with me, and I don't want to even talk about it. Let's go to lunch. Because the distractor is going to change the subject. Whenever you are in low brain, fight, flight, or freeze, you're going to communicate in one of these ways. None of these will actually help the relationship. They'll always keep the relationship in pain. It'll never move the relationship into pleasure. All right? And goodness. You cannot, those who were there yesterday, you cannot have a good, strong sense of usness in the relationship and in the work team as long as this kind of energy is present. Are you with me? And so you have to learn to regulate that low brain so that I can move to higher order brain and communicate in a way with you so I don't choke you, fight response, all right, where I can address the issues calmly and matter-of-factly in a healthy, mature way. All right?